I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a voice in the room?
He's here someplace. Here he comes.
I love the shirt too, Bill. Love the shirt. Do we have sign language in the room?
I didn't see him walk.
I love the sign language.
There he is.
I really do. I think it's a great addition.
It's a great day in America, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Let's sing the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Beautiful.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, sign language person. Josiah. Thank you. I will try to remember that next month, Josiah. We appreciate you being here. What's everybody still standing?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tom's on.
Well, if you're like me, you've been probably interested in watching the rise in conflict since President Trump got elected and all of his cabinet appointees going through the hearings and all the undercurrents that are going on in this country. And I know a lot of you know that because you're active in your faith and you're active in studying the Scripture. So it's not new to you to understand spiritual warfare. It's an unseen force, but it manifests through the way people deal with issues of truth, issues of lawlessness. And as you know, one of the main things that the conservatives in this country are trying to do is strengthen the idea of the rule of law and the speaking of truth. And those things are very powerful. When a nation loses that, it loses its ability to function as a free and healthy nation. And I believe that we have a reprieve with President Trump getting reelected. I really feel, it's my own feelings, I'm just sharing my own feelings, that if Kamala Harris would have gotten elected, another 4 years of that demonic type of government probably would have killed this nation. I'm not sure we could have recovered. But my concern is that in the 7 decades that I've been alive and interested in politics, I've watched this pendulum swing, and it's getting more and more radical. Every cycle, there's more out there on the left that is just totally Marxist, ungodly. And so my concern is if we don't keep praying and we don't stay active, when President Trump's 4 years are over, if that pendulum swings back over to the hard left, we may be amazed at what could happen. So I just tell Christian people every chance I get, be in prayer, don't relax, don't just think that everything's taken care of because we got our favorite candidate back in office. Because we could just be experiencing a temporary reprieve from what Satan wants to do in this world. So let's pray. And Jesus said that one of the characteristics of the last days would be an increase in lawlessness. And when he said that, I think there's something behind that we need to understand. It's not just a little increase, it's a noticeable, rapid increase. And that's what we saw, particularly in the last 4 years. So let's pray and let's stand strong at our post spiritually and don't go lax in that area. Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight. Thank you for all these brothers and sisters gathered here. Thank you for all those that have a heart and a desire to stand for our nation, to stand for families, to stand for our schools, and to stand for truth and righteousness in this land. So Lord, I pray that you give us strength, that we would not grow weary in well-doing, that we would hold firm to what we know is right, and we would have a strong voice, that we would speak into our culture on whatever level you tell us to. We thank you for that tonight. Bless all those who will be speaking to us. Give them wisdom and clarity of communication. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. You can be seated.
I always got to give a commercial, right? Tom's our friend. He's a director for We the People. He's also my favorite preacher. If you do not have a church that you're attending, Tom's right up here on 7 Highway in Blue Springs at Summit Springs. It's right next to the pet land. I'm getting it right. I'm getting better at it. But, you talk about making a difference in people's lives. His wife, George, sent me an email a month or a year or so ago. And she said, most churches are losing congregation, but we're growing. And she goes, a lot of it's we the people. So it's just funny because a lot of you all got to know Tom here, and now you're going to his church, and it's just wonderful. You talk about someone preaching the word the way it's written. It's incredible, and we appreciate that very much. A couple of little housekeeping things. If you are not on our email, you want to be on it, you got to sign up over here. Give us your email address. There is a bowl for donations, so we can pay our rent here. Throw a few bucks. If you don't have a few bucks, don't throw any in. You don't have to. It's no big deal. We do have a book of business. The book of business is exactly what it is. We have alike businesses with alike minds that we're trying to refer to one another. And that makes all the sense in the world. Our book of business continues to grow. But what I'm going to hand out right now, this is a list in alphabetical order of everybody that's in our email campaign. And first of all, how many people here are brand new tonight? First time here? Fantastic. Where you been the last 4 years? What this group has accomplished in 4 years is incredible, in my opinion, because we have not only awakened, but we're also getting involved, and we're also getting things done. And each and every one of you has your strengths. And each and every one of you, it doesn't matter if it's just emailing or sharing Facebook pages or whatever the case might be, or maybe it's door knocking, talking about, what's coming up in the next election or whatever. We each have our strengths. 5 years ago, I was an armchair quarterback. I was sitting at home bitching. Can I say bitch? I was sitting at home bitching and moaning about everything that's going on in our schools, in our cities, in our county, in our state, in our nation. And then the rioting started in KCMO. And my friend Tom calls me, and he goes, "Aren't you the president of the gun club?" And I go, "Yeah." "Don't you have a hall that we could meet?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Let's get some people together." And I go, "Duh, that's a great idea." So that's how we started 4 years ago in July.
5 years.
Oh, yeah.
It was 2020, wasn't it?
Yep.
2020, July of 2020 is when we started. So it'll be 5 years this coming July. So anyway, we're involved in catching the predators for human trafficking. We're involved in drug trafficking. We're involved with police, security, health, wellness, preparedness. You know, we're trying to cover a lot of different subjects, and we bring the truth. And if the truth is not what we want to hear, that's too bad. We're going to bring the truth anyway. We want people to bring the truth to us. So I'm going to hand this out. This is everybody. It's in alphabetical order of everybody that's on the email. I need you, if you would, put the school district that you live in to the right of this. And this is going to go around. It might take all night to go around. But if you're not in the email campaign, just hand it to the next person, okay? What we're doing is we're going to make sure that we get people involved in each one of our townships and get them involved. And we're not asking a lot. We're just asking to get involved, to do more. We've got a big night. We did not have a meeting in January. We had about 8 inches of snow out here. And I canceled it 2 or 3 days ahead of time because the temperature wasn't going to get above 30 degrees. So I knew I wanted to make sure it was safe. So I had a couple of speakers in January that I moved to February. Well, I already have my February set up too. So we're going to run through some speakers tonight, and we're going to bring you some different opinions from different points of view, and then of course we're going to close it out with about blew it. About blew it. So our first speaker is Ronnie. Ronnie, you want to come on up? Ronnie, I'm going to let you tell everybody what you do because I'll blow it. I know I will. But Ronnie's with Answering the Call, and I know he has spoken here once before. Yep. And I wanted him to just update everybody on what's going on. Thanks, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's over here good?
Great.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, like Chuck said, my name is Ronnie Dumit. I am a now retired Lee Summit detective from Lee Summit PD. I spent almost a little over 20 years of my life serving and protecting our great community. And in 2015, April 16, just to kind of get into it real quickly, we had a catastrophic event that occurred within our department. My friend and colleague, Detective Josh Ward, became extremely ill in April 16th. That was a Thursday morning, actually. We didn't really know what was wrong with him. We had gotten word that he had been rushed from one hospital to another, from St. Luke's Lee Summit to St. Luke's, Kansas City. And in the jovial crew that we are, we made fun of him. I'm spraining his toe or doing something silly, but it really turned out to be something extremely catastrophic, actually. And Josh he did lose his life multiple times in the OR waiting room. But what he had suffered was this a flesh-eating bacteria called necrotizing fasciitis. We were pretty confident that Josh had gotten this virus off of a crime scene, but there was no way of proving it. Immediately rushed into the OR, emergency surgery, placed in a medically induced coma. We got wind of it. I rushed down to the hospital, met his wife outside the OR waiting room, and that really started a chain of events that changed my life. Obviously changed Josh's, but it changed my life. I had been in law enforcement for about 15 years at that time, did time in patrol on TAC, and I got my dream job working narcotics. And that's what I love to do. I love working plain clothes, and I love taking poison off our streets. Mm-hmm. I really did. Josh got sick, and it catapulted me into a life that I knew nothing about. Actually, our department didn't know anything about. We had a brother who was dying. We had a family at home, a single income family at home, 3 young kids, and the primary caretaker, the one that brought home the bacon and provided the insurance, was dying on an OR table. My chief, who's a great chief at Lee Summit, we're still lucky to have him there, reassign me from my caseload to Josh's family to meet their needs and make sure things were taken care of. I actually sat around and twiddled my thumbs. I didn't know what to do other than just be there for Melissa and meet her needs within the home. But then it grew bigger than me. It grew bigger than what I could just do, and it turned into a financial need, an extreme financial need, and it was almost overnight. Our law enforcement that serve and protect our great community, they don't make the best money, right? They don't get into it for the glitz and the glamour. They get into it because it's a passion. They get into it because it's something they're driven to do. I really, truly believe that they're born on this planet to serve God's church. I do. I believe that. They don't get into it for the millions and hundreds of dollars they're going to make. So when you take one of those individuals off their job, from their overtime and their off-duty gigs, for an extended period of time, that family's going to get hit financially immediately. And this is exactly what happened to the Ward family. Again, single income family, 3 young babies at home, and sweet Melissa, who is making life and death decisions every single day and got stuck with me, unfortunately. So I waited around and waited for all these resources to reach out from our state, our county, and our cities, knowing that Josh was a man of service, and there just wasn't anything. There wasn't any nonprofits set up to step in and take care of those that survived a critical incident or were diagnosed with a rare and aggressive illness. But I saw something that was amazing to me, and I really didn't think it was going to happen, because if you remember during that time in 2015, the other side of our state was burning. That was Ferguson. And I was really concerned. I had one of my good friends here that was in dire need, and I didn't want him, if he was at all awake from this medically induced coma, to lose his home and everything that he had, but he was alive. So we started to work, and we started to fundraise, and this great community of ours came together and surrounded this family. It really was a nationwide gathering, if I will. It was something that gained national exposure. And I think it was good for the community, especially our state at that time. We had this first responder who was a great guy who was going through a really difficult time, and this community surrounded his amazing family. We raised $100,000 in 4 months.
Wow.
And we were able to tell Josh, thankfully, when he woke, because he did, that we had his family taken care of. And I saw a spark and a light bulb go off in him like I have never seen. That man, as soon as he found out that he could be selfish for once in his life, that his family was going to be taken care of, and that this great community that he had served for 10 years of his life surrounded his family in his most dire time, he was ready to get the hell out of that bed, and he was ready to get back to work. Josh was in the hospital for 4 months, 27 surgeries later, fingers and toes amputated, unfortunately, lost his thumb, right index finger, 60% of his upper body mass was cut away. But he was alive, and he was able to go home eventually and hug his kids, kiss his wife, and thank God we still have him today. But in June of that year, I was frustrated, beyond frustrated. I was frustrated that there were no resources for the men and women that I served with. I have watched it over the last 15 years of my life of men and women out there serving and protecting, and no fault of their own, they get shot, they get stabbed, they get burned up in a structure fire, rushing in to save my family. And there's nothing in return to step in and support their family in their time of need. So we started a nonprofit that year. June 9th of 2015, we started a nonprofit called Answering the Call. That was not my idea. That was one of my board members. And here we are, 10 years later this year. 1.3 million donated back to first responders in Kansas and Missouri. We're meeting a need that has never been met in the history of our state, which is mind-blowing to me. What you hear about most of the time that doesn't happen as often, thankfully, is line of duty death, right? There are a lot of great nonprofits. There's state money, there's federal money, there's FOP money for line of duty death, right? We had Cody Allen killed, actually it'll be a year at the end of this month, February 29th in Independence. His wife Danielle is someone who I work with now. I work with her and her sweet children to provide them resources that they wouldn't have had before. But thankfully, and as it should be, there is financial stability and resources for them. Her husband went to work and never came home. Daddy didn't walk back through the door. A year ago at the end of this month. But what happens when they survive a critical incident? My friend Tom Wagstaff shot in the head in a home invasion in Independence. Nothing. I was at the hospital within an hour. I was actually on the range shooting when Tom got shot at RPD. I ran up to a hospital to be there for the department to assist wherever needed. But their biggest issue was finances. We had been established for about 2 years at the time. I was still trying to get my mind wrapped around what I was doing, still working narcotics at the time. But we were able to step in immediately, and that's really what kind of put us on the map. Tom's laying in a hospital bed, shot in the right part of his head with a .223 round, and there is absolutely no resources for him and his family. His wife gets a 40-hour-a-week check to raise 2 boys at home. She was a teacher in Raytown, and there was absolutely nothing for them except for us. So we got involved. We raised a ton of money for them. We kept their head above water, and remarkably, and I watched prayer happen right then and there at that hospital, we witnessed a miracle in Tom. We were being told that he wasn't going to survive. They were going in and out of his room. They were saying their goodbyes. The officers were, and they just came out, and they just couldn't understand what was going on. And the next day, the doctor literally came in and got his sweet wife and their 2 kids and said, I don't know how to explain this to you, but we're witnessing a miracle at this point. He made almost 100% recovery. And Tom's living down in Texas now, and they built a home by a gym that works with him, and he's there every single day, and he's doing great. I get these random texts from him all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Great guy. I actually served with him. He was on Independence SWAT, and I was on Lee Summit. Just a great human being. Gave his life for us, literally his life for us, and there was no resources for him. I could beat that horse to death right here because I'm so frustrated. But I've pushed beyond that. And what we do is we do a ton of fundraising. And I'm usually at the hospital within 10 to 12 hours of the incident and or of the diagnosis. I'm usually in front of the family. My board knows there's one thing I request. And when we have a critical incident and or a diagnosis of one of our first responders, that a check is in their hand within hours. Not days, not months, not weeks. There is no process. There is no application that these sweet, poor spouses have to sit in a hospital room with their husband or their wife that's shot and fill out. There's none of that with us. You call me, I do my quick investigation. I did investigations for 14 years of my life. I can do this one. And then we run a checkup to the spouse. We get involved immediately. We remove that financial strain, and then we just turn into a community resource for them. And that's not a one-time donation. They can come back to us multiple times if needed. 2023, KC Mo, the Metro had 8 officers shot in that year. You probably didn't hear about a lot of those, but we did. You probably did hear about Officer from Fairway, Kansas, who was shot and killed, but the others you probably didn't hear about. But 8 total between Kansas City PD and KCK. In the month of February alone, KCPD had 4 officers shot. 7 weeks later, KCK's TAC had 3 officers shot on a critical incident. So these were all incidents that we were heavily involved in. Hell, I'm still involved with a few of them. And this is the work we're doing. And I ask people all the time, where do you think they would be? I'm a big family guy. I have 2 small children at home, my beautiful wife, and I'm big into family. I'm big into family structure. And I can tell you that I've witnessed this over time, with the amount of stress that these men and women are under right now, every single day out serving us. If you throw a critical incident or a severe aggressive diagnosis, it will break that family. And it'll break them because of finances. But we're eliminating that immediately. And I'm happy to say that I've done my calculations right. In almost 10 years, we've only had 1 divorce. And that was an officer named Betancourt out of Clinton, Missouri, who was shot when we lost Officer Morton that night. They were ambushed. We had 3 officers shot that night. There was a lot of other things, and it was just a ton of pressure. It just was. Nathan's a friend of mine. He's told me that. He's actually told his story. You can go to our website. We have a lot of our first responders, our recipients come forward, and they tell their stories, which is much more powerful than me standing up here talking to you, which I will do every single day of my life, because that's the path God has blazed for me. We did argue about that, though. got my path. This wasn't my path. I was supposed to work till 55 and get my full pension, but he sent me down another path, and I'm thankful he did. And I'm honored to serve those that serve us. So thank you, Chuck. I know time's limited, but thank you for having me. I do like to leave it at the end for a few questions if anybody has any. No. ATC, letters ATC 911.org. I did bring some pamphlets that have all our information on them, so I'll leave those up here. QR codes, you can scan them, takes you straight to our website. Our big campaign over the last 2 years is recurring donations. It fell on my heart one day that $9.11, 9/11 is just a number that's stuck in my head when it comes to first responders. So that's what we ask the community to do. We ask them to donate $9.11 a month to serve those that serve. And yeah, thank you for your time. Appreciate you guys, what you do. I mean that sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you.
These will be on the table over there. Pick one up on the way out. And Ronnie, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're a good man, and we appreciate everything you're doing, sir. Next speaker is Leah Phillips, and I should have done this with Ronnie, but because I had it right here to read. But I messed it up. I tend to do that with my introduction.
Hey, Chuck, real quick.
Yeah.
That clipboard that's going around, it's for, we're working with a lot of different local candidates. So if you could put your school district down, when we do get news or breaking information or something that's going on, I don't really want to email all 572 of you. I'd rather just email the people who actually care about that.
Oh,
So that's where,
4.
one, to make sure that
I don't write it down.
and if you can put your school district down, that helps us stop to over email you if there's something going on in your school district. So that's what it is.
Yeah, we're just trying to get, we're trying to break it down by school district, so just, that's all we
Sorry
ask.
for me?
Uh,
Do you feel sorry for me?
This is Lee Phillips. She's dedicated advocate of government accounting, taxpayer rights, and property protections in the city of Independence and beyond. Guided by her unwavering faith of God, Lee works tirelessly to ensure transparency, fiscal responsibility, and the protection of individual liberties. She's led a lot of efforts to challenge unjust zoning, that in Independence, oppose wasteful spending, and hold elected officials accountable. That's what we really need to do. She's the founder of a political action committee and now a possible candidate for Independence City at Large in 2026. I had breakfast with her Saturday morning, and she's got a lot of good things going on, and I invited her to speak tonight.
Nice. No. Don't you know how to do that?
No, that one doesn't work for this one.
I've got it here, but it's gone from the,
When it USB, oh,
Where do you want it?
it was on 4, I think.
It was on
HDMI 4.
Where are you hooked up to?
I don't know, I'm hooked up on my computer, so.
What do you want it on?
I mean, which?
4. Hit 4. Because that's your H.
It's highlighted, no, go back to 4.
Is it upside down? Is your remote upside down? Yes. There you go.
Operator issue.
Well, make sure it's plugged in.
Okay.
No signal. Is it on?
She had it.
I mean, I have it.
Got it hooked up. Sure you're on the right one?
I couldn't reach that if you paid me.
Yeah, we got an IT guy here. I knew I invited you here for something.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and get started because that's not for just a couple minutes anyway. So Again, my name is Lee, my last name is Phillips, and thank you guys for having me out again. I talk a lot. So, and you're gonna get the truncated version of this because he called me and took 5 minutes off of what I had. So, after this, if you guys have questions, there's a phone number, you can call me or we can talk later. So my first question to you guys, are any of you a member of your local Chamber of Commerce? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're currently a member of any local chamber. There's a few of you. Let's look at it this way. If any of you have ever considered membership and chosen not to participate, or have been members and haven't renewed, raise your hand. A few more of those. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to look at real quick, we're gonna play a little game called Perception. Called Perception versus Reality. Thank you. Almost got it. So when you signed up for your Chamber of Commerce, or when you considered it, what was your perception? Just holler it out. What was the perception of what you were going to get for your membership fees?
That's what I was talking about.
Referrals? Go ahead. Who else?
Networking.
Anybody else?
Say, connect to the community.
Okay, connections, all kind of the same thing here, but
New business, voice.
new business. What else did I hear?
Voice.
Before voice? Okay, excuse my writing. So when we look at the perception of what you were, sorry, I know
I think
why,
it's because
I know why.
it's closer to
I
the.
know, it's because I'm too close to that. It's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to do anything else with it. I'll just move. When you actually looked at the perception of what your membership fees brought you, what was your reality that caused you maybe to cancel your membership or those kinds of things? What actually happened?
Indoctrination.
Indoctrination. What else? Did you get your business to the red ribbon line? Did they help you open your business? Did they drop you after that? So there's a perception of what a Chamber of Commerce can bring to you as a business, and in reality, most of the time, that's really not what happens. So I'm going to add to this discussion, and thank you for participating. And I want to acknowledge, real quick, that there have been those who champion involvement in local chambers and fostering conversations with them. And I agree, dialogue is vital. But let me ask you this, how many of you have actually found your local chamber welcoming toward your conservative ideas?
Not at all.
Okay, I got a big no on that one. And like I said, if we're being honest, many of us would say no. So in addition to the things that have already been listed, I'd like to add a couple more things that I've found out by talking to people, doing research, and a couple of things that have happened in Independence. I'm not knocking every chamber. Maybe there's one that's great. That's good. That's a good thing. But when the tax assessments came out, not a single Jackson County Chamber of Commerce spoke out against or helped citizens go through the senior tax freeze process. Not a single one. And that kind of undermines their roles as advocates for both businesses, communities, and residents. Recently in Independence, our local Chamber of Commerce just donated $4,000 of membership money to support a general obligation bond. So therefore raising our taxes. They donated $4,000. And I find that incredibly unacceptable. Not to mention that we, the taxpayers in Independence at least, have subsidized our Chamber of Commerce to the tune of $1.3 million since 2018. Our tax dollars are paying for our chamber to support us, and they still don't do that. So a lot of these chamber actions have led me to believe that many are losing relevance and struggling to maintain the trust within the communities they serve. This paper, most of the chamber practices not only fail to align with my personal values, conservative values, but in many cases they often contradict them. So across Eastern Jackson County, business owners have voiced their frustrations over the systemic issues impacting their operations and livelihoods. You've got the high property tax assessments, forcing small businesses to cut back, cancel culture, silencing youth, a lot of progressive action in the chambers. And if you try to go in there and say, hey, I'd like to cut a budget, do you think they're going to let you stay in that, bro? They're not going to do it. So a lot of people can't even speak out openly about these kinds of things. There's lots of excessive permitting delays, restrictive zoning regulations, and instead of advocating for our businesses and our communities, these chambers have actually become complicit in supporting policies and ideologies that erode our liberties and make it really hard for a lot of businesses to thrive. And I have come to believe that working with the established chambers while trying to navigate all of this is really rather impossible. Can we all agree that this approach really hasn't worked in the past? Okay. You know, a lot of times it leaves us with compromised values, strained communities, and it truly strikes me as a definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So it really led me to this question: what do we do when our chamber's policies and priorities do not align with our conservative principles? What do we do? Well, don't join them. That's an option, and that's probably what a lot of conservative businesses have chosen to do. You just disengage, which doesn't really help your community. But you know, what do you do? What do you do? So all of you have appeared to have faced this frustration. And so when I started researching the solution, I initially found myself confined by an incredibly narrow vision, one that was shaped by the limitations of currently established systems and structures. However, after much reflection and hitting my knees in prayer, I realized something very profound. God's vision is unlimited. He calls us not to accept limitations, but to dream bigger, act boldly, and to step into the roles that He has prepared for us. And it inspired me to think beyond those existing structures and embrace something entirely new. A fresh approach, rooted in faith, guided by purpose, and grounded in grassroots conservative values, those that we hold dear. So all of this led me to a simple yet profound conclusion. If you don't like what your chamber offers, create your own. And that's exactly what we've done. So as one of the founding members, I'm excited to present a better way, a different choice, the Conservative Economic League Chamber of Commerce, also known as the League. Our mission was born out of a desire to create a meaningful alternative. This grassroots movement is inspired by faith in God, dedicated to revitalizing our communities, pulling you above the red ribbon cutting, and actually expanding your business and raising you up, empowering the local business, upholding free market principles and conservative values, helping cities push back on progressive ideologies that have smothered us into submission. Thank you. Our core mission is very simple, but it's also very profound: to strengthen Jackson County through faith-driven leadership, conservative advocacy, and a commitment to free market ideals. Is my video up?
It was. Comes up for a half second, then it goes off. Been here before.
Been here before?
Use your cable, Rick. Yours worked.
I mean, I have another cable as well. I need to drink. Thank you for trying that out. And I really don't want to go forward until you watch this real quick. It's just it's a little 3-minute introduction of giving you guys some of the things that we have planned. I would tell you right now that Lance Dylan Schneider, is one of my co-founders.
Nice.
So make sure that goes. And I have a potential co-founder, my third co-founder, in this room. And if they choose to announce after this that they are going to participate in this, then we will be able to go ahead and finish our incorporation. We are, go ahead. Did you need something?
No, I was gonna help you fill a little time while you're waiting.
Okay, thanks.
I wanted to just say, you know, we had a really productive meeting this weekend. And we've been around game. You guys are great. Everybody's great.
There it goes. It's getting it.
There you go.
The cord.
But we need to do this in many directions. We need to attack them from all directions, just like they've done us for years. We need to attack them whether we get help from the state of Missouri, whether we do it legally, no matter.
No matter if we're legal or not.
Do it through the legal system. system, or whether we do it through the state, we need to attack this fight in all directions. That's what Trump is doing, that's what he's doing, and that's why he's so successful. We need to take his model and follow him, and this is a great cause. The reason I decided, I'll step up and help, because this is a good way to fight back in just another angle. So anyway, I hope I killed enough time there for
I
you.
think so. Do we have volume? How do I do? It's not on my,
You're not gonna get volume on that.
okay, well, that's a challenge. Okay, so,
We don't get volume?
We have to put the mic up to it.
okay, well, and it looks like I only have a minute and 55 of my three minutes.
You talking loud and I'll.
It's okay. I only have, I can put some, no, it's okay. I can put some things up there. And I apologize. I'm not real sure what happened, but it doesn't even look like I have the entire video. However, there are pages on the table over here that have a QR code where you can go and watch this entire 3-minute introduction. You can pick up, we are less expensive than every chamber. We made sure we came down by 15 to 20% on our membership fees. I see conservative candidates coming out of our Chamber of Commerce because we're going to put classes together that help our candidates train. And so it should be very fun. A lot of the same things, we are going to have events, we're going to have networking, we're going to have those things as well. I look forward to having maybe 2 people per city, Sibley, Levacy, Green Valley, all of them, to come to the monthly meetings to help us understand what's going on. Because that way we can advocate for you in Jefferson City. We can advocate. Can you imagine a conservative group, a coalition of us walking into Green Valley Chamber of Commerce City Council going, no. And helping you guys get through the red tape. I would welcome it in independence. Oh my gosh, independence. So pretending that we've heard this, and I apologize, I'm not sure what happened, but I just wanted to say that we are at a historic crossroads with Donald J. Trump back in office. Yeah. Donald J. Trump back in office. The political climate has really shifted. I've heard people talking about it already. In favor of a renewed faith in God, conservative principles, common sense for crying out loud, and free market ideals. Ladies and gentlemen, we will never have another time, an opportunity like this again in our lifetimes. We have to ride on the coattails of what's going on, and it's going to take work. So now is the time to act. It's time to unite around our shared goals and take a very bold action outside the box. The Conservative Economic League Chamber of Commerce isn't just an organization. It is a grassroots movement dedicated to defending our freedoms, empowering your businesses, and restoring the foundational principles that have made this nation strong. We can create communities that honor God, foster opportunity, and inspire future generations. Our children can have inspiration from this, watching their mom, their dad, their grandparents go after all this stuff as a collective voice. How amazing would that be? We want to rebuild trust in our institutions. We want to advocate for conservative policies that protect our rights and freedoms, both locally and in Jeff City. I already have a liaison who's willing to come and be kind of our lobbyist guy every month and tell us what's going on in Jeff City. So that's a really cool thing. So if this vision resonates with you, I'm literally here to ask for your support and invite you and your book of businesses to pre-register. Like I said, we're looking for a July 1st open date, but we are taking pre-registrations. I need board members. I need volunteers. I need, what are they called? Committee leaders, a strong coalition of people. And I think we can push back against all these progressive ideas. So thank you for your time and your support. And let's just take action because the glorious God's and the time is now.
Sorry about the TV.
There's pages on the table
that have a little bit of an introduction and a QR code, and you can pick out all your membership, board membership applications, volunteer applications, all of that stuff is at the QR code.
When Lee came to me and she said she wanted to start a conservative Chamber of Commerce in eastern Jackson County that does not include KCMO. And I'm going, that sounds like our book of business that we have here. We're a conservative group that's in the book of business. So it goes hand in hand, and I hope and pray this thing takes off with guns, and just hope it works. And we will see. She is gung-ho, and she is educated, and she is inspired, and that's all good. So we'll do that. I was going to invite Holly Schmitz to come up for a couple of minutes while they're redoing things back here. Holly, you all know that we started We the People of Jackson County, Missouri in 2020. Well, in about 2022 or 2021, folks from Wardsburg contacted me and said, can we start one in Johnson County? And I said, yeah. And they're going gangbusters. They're doing a great job. Another county, Cass County, came to me and says, can we start one in Cass County? And I said, yeah, of course. So this is continuing to grow, but Johnson County is doing a magnificent job. And you all do know what's going on with DEI, right? What? Yeah. There is no one happier than me when DEI is going away. So she wanted to talk about it, and I wanted her to. So it's all yours.
Good evening. Excited to be here. I think the last time I was here, this one was when McCloskey came in 22. I was helping him run for office there. So I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm actually here kind of as the in-between liaison. We have a new District 39 representative, Mark Myrath. I hope I'm saying that right. M-E-I-R-A-T-H. And he's already putting out a bill against the DEI that's going on and is really infiltrating into our school districts. As you know, it's been going on for a while, and I love it that a lot of these businesses are rolling back the DEI. However, I'm a teacher, I work in insurance now, and it takes 4, 5, 10 years for the curriculum to catch up with what's going on. So what we're seeing now is the curriculum is having these DEI stories that they're putting out. There's basically pornographic books in our elementary libraries. It just makes me sick. And so I just want to share this. This is House Bill 10, HB 1024. Mark Myrath just got elected in November, so I'm really proud of him that he's taken this on. My question is, why isn't a lot more people helping him co-sponsor this? So anyway, what I have is a kind of a sign-up sheet. And so we're looking for evidence to show that this is harmful for children. So if you have any information, whether it's been drag shows that have been in your town or your college, if it's, books that shouldn't be in the school, we need evidence, okay? So I'm collecting evidence for him. If you can put your name, your email, your phone number, I'll reach out to you and we'll work it out. They're looking for written evidence. They're looking for books, curriculum. If your kids or grandkids have had stories of coming home and, they're crying because they're white, it's ridiculous, but that's what's going on. So this HB 1024, it is known as the defunding, the DEI, defunding diversity, equity, inclusion in elementary and secondary education. Trump is kicking out DEI, which is great, but that's at a federal level, so that doesn't affect our schools yet. So he is directly trying to work to outlaw the DEI in our schools. That's K through 12. It's outlawing workshops, curriculum materials, student groups, which DEI is in all this already. It's basically saying if any school uses this, then they would have to refund the state that money, and the next year they would get no state funding. If they do any DEI, they get no state funding the next year. And also, it would allow any resident, taxpayer, or employee of an educational institution to file a complaint if they see that DEI is being used and pushed in our schools.
Good.
Okay? So, anyway, if you want, we'll pass this around. You can take a picture of the HB 1024 if you'd like. But really, if you want to pray about it, if you have evidence, stories, curriculum, or books, reach out to me. It may not be helpful, it might. And we also need witnesses. So if you're a teacher or have any kind of education background, school board, if you got kicked out of a school board meeting, anything like that, let me know.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll talk to Chuck. Any quick questions? Great. Also, just to be in prayer tomorrow, there's some exciting things that are going on at the Capitol to try to repeal and roll back Amendment 3 that's allowing abortion until birth.
thank God.
So be praying about that. And thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You know, we pay attention, we try to pay attention to everything that's going on, and it would not surprise me at all if the federal government doesn't get out of education 100% and give it back to the state. I'm pretty sure that's what Trump wants to do. And if that happens, you know, the whole federal regulations in the school district needs to go away. You know, DEI needs to go away. It's just crazy what's going on. Bill?
President Trump signed an executive order last Wednesday, Executive Order 14190. And it gives the Department of Education 60 days to come up with a plan to get DEI and gender studies and all this gender stuff out of the public school system. President Trump already did the heavy lifting for that. Okay, so we just have to wait now to see how it's going to play out, but it's already done at the public school level.
Perfect. Bill's with the Lee Summit School District. He is he's school board. So we appreciate you being here, Bill. Go ahead.
I think we need to make sure that DEI becomes DIE.
Very good. Very good. Moving right along. We got a lot of information, and there's subjects that you all are going to be very involved with, and you want to get involved with. Just keep those in your mind, because we want action. This group is an action group, and we are going to all get involved and do our thing, whatever it is. Even if it is minor, we're going to get involved with it. I would like to introduce Patrick Toohey. You talk about economic development, you talk about fiscal awareness, statewide, locally. It kind of reminds me of DOGE. Does that make any sense? Except he's doing, you know, Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh yeah, must.
But he's more on state and local level, and have the opportunity to have him come speak. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's an opportunity, a great opportunity to speak with you. Just some notes before I begin. There is an organization recently founded in the United States called School Boards for Academic Excellence. It is a reaction to what we've seen in schools lately. I am not a part of that organization, but I know people who are. There is no chapter in Missouri. So if somebody with the school board organization could come up, I'll get your information and pass it on. So my name is Patrick Toohey, as Chuck said, and I work for the Show Me Institute. We are a small government, free market think tank based in St. Louis, but I've been working for them for about 10 years here in Kansas City. I have a pamphlet on the table here, which will give you QR codes to some of the documents we've published recently, including a blueprint, general kind of small government solutions for the legislature, and including something on a DOGE for Missouri. Tonight I want to talk to you about economic development incentives. And this is not a left-right thing. It is not a Republican, Democrat thing. It is often a taxpayer versus tax collector thing. And a lot of my examples are from Kansas City. You'll recognize a lot of these, but I do this presentation in Nashville. I do it in Austin. I do it all over the country. And these types of arguments are familiar to people all over. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Upton Sinclair was kind of a muckraker, exposed a lot of corruption long ago, 100 years ago, but he has a great line, which I think of often. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. And when I talk to a lot of elected and career civil servants, I run up against that. I put this quote here to be kind of snarky, but as I have spent more time dealing with state and local government, I have a different thought of this line. We'll talk about that again at the end. Economic incentives are big money. Thousands of deals totaling up to $95 billion are awarded by states and localities each year around the country. For both foreign companies and domestic companies, and it is basically, we give taxpayer dollars to companies to do things, frankly, they were going to do anyway. It's corporate welfare, it's cronyism. Missouri has foregone $7 billion in state and local revenue. The biggest recipients won't surprise you, it's Cerner or Oracle and Boeing. The research is clear, and this is not, again, just a right-wing thing or left. It is academics from the right and the left. It is the organizations that give out these subsidies. The St. Louis, the East-West Gateway is sort of like the MART we have here. It's a regional collection of governments. They've done a study, found the money was wasted. Another organization in Chicago looked at it and found their money was wasted. City of St. Louis studied it, found that their money was wasted. We did a study, wasted. And then Upjohn Institute, which is a kind of left-leaning think tank, did a bunch of research and found that in 75% of cases, and I'll talk a little bit more, explain this, but in 75% of cases, we gave money to businesses to do things that they were going to do anyway. But they just take the money and say, thank you, look what we did. But some people just don't care about the research. This is Steve Rose. I used to be on Ruckus with Steve Rose. Steve Rose and the friends he goes to lunch with love subsidies. He's on the Kansas side, but all my other panelists on Ruckus were paid by somebody somewhere who was getting an economic benefit. And they literally do not care what the research tells you. And that's what he said to me on TV. They don't care because they, like the quote at the beginning, have a vested interest in accepting the world the way it is, rather than seeing it for what the research tells us. Here's a great example. H&R Block, one of the first companies to get subsidies to build a headquarters in downtown Kansas City in around 2007. They built that building, paid for by tax dollars. Now, what tax increment financing is, and I'm sorry for speaking fast, but I'm short on time. What tax increment financing is you walk into an area and you want to build something, what the government says is, okay, we're going to freeze the property tax at the rate it is now. And then for 23 years, when you develop this property, that increment, that tax rate is going to go up. The assessment's going to go up. But we're going to take that growth and give it back to you to pay for the cost of development. And it's not always just the property tax. H&R Block got the earnings tax given back to them for all those employees. And if there's retail, and look, there is, the sales tax goes back to them. H&R Block promised in return of all those subsidies, and this is what they always say, that we will create thousands of jobs. In 2015, H&R Block reported 2,200 new jobs created. So you and I, if we don't know what's going on, we're saying, what a success. We drive by, there's a building there that wasn't there before. They say there are 2,200 employees that work there. They didn't work there before, and we all believe it. We're like, wow, government did something. They created jobs. But the fact is, from 2006 to 2016, H&R Block went from 1,600 total employees for the entire company to just 1,735. That was a net gain of 135. That building did not create any new jobs. What they did was close all their satellite offices and moved all those people into a downtown building and then pretended that those were new jobs. But the Economic Development Corporation that gives out all these deals counts that because they say there are 1,600 jobs here that weren't here before. And the thing that makes me crazy is those 1,600 offices all around the Kansas City metro area moved from places where they paid property, earnings, and sales taxes into a building where they don't. So in effect, we lost money and created no new jobs. But H&R Block got a sweet new building. Okay, so I moved to Kansas City in 2005. I don't remember too much of downtown, but I understand it was moribund. And now you see this, you're like, Patrick, there are businesses there are neon lights, there's traffic. How could you say this is a waste of money? Look at all the economic development we created. Well, one of the crazy things that Kansas City does is require that if you work in a restaurant or a bar, you have a health card. That is a rarity. No other place does that. But it's another opportunity for Kansas City to screw the working guy and make them pay $60 for, or at least at the time, $60 for a health card that lasted 3 years. So I went to Regulated Industries, Liquor Control, and I said, hey, give me the numbers of all the health cards that were in issuance for every year for the past 20 years. And also, give me the number of liquor licenses to businesses that you issued every year for the past 20 years. And here's what they showed me. The numbers are flat. And that red line is when the Power and Light District opened. So what does that tell me? Citywide, we created no new health care jobs or restaurant or business jobs, and the green line is liquor licenses. We didn't create any new liquor licenses. Like H&R Block, those businesses simply moved from elsewhere in the city to downtown. We created nothing new. We just gave those companies incentives to move where they did, and they moved from places where they paid property, income, and sales taxes to downtown where they pay none of that, because all that money goes back to Cordish for 23 years to pay for the construction of all the buildings. So not only did we create nothing, on paper, we are worse off. The streetcar. So in 2005, I moved to Kansas City. In 2008, I was involved in the campaign against the first streetcar, right? Funkhauser was mayor, and I talked to a guy named Bob Llewellyn, who used to be on the city council. And I said, Bob, I don't want to be the jackass who comes from Washington, D.C. and says, what the hell is wrong with Kansas City? But what the hell is wrong with Kansas City? And he said, and I know you guys know this, but it was a lesson for me, everyone who gives a damn about good government or public safety or quality schools has already left. And so the only people left are people that think that they can get something from government. So the streetcar, they've been operating since, 2012, and they say still on their website, we are creating economic development. So I went to Jackson County's assessment department, and I said, give me the aggregate property value every year of the entirety of Jackson County. And then give me the property value, the aggregate property value of the entirety of the streetcar district. The growth is the same. The streetcar, the economic development as measured by market value, has not increased in the streetcar district any faster than it has in the county, which means we could have done nothing and gotten the same result. And I've shown this to the streetcar guys, and they say, well, we're generating sales tax revenue. I'm like, show me any of the data. Every time you pin these guys down, their standards change. They move the goalposts, but they can never actually show you a return on the investment of taxpayer dollars. And it's fascinating because in 2014, the Federal Transit Administration, which actually gives out these money, found that it doesn't drive economic development, but the streetcar operators around the country don't actually measure it because they don't want to. Because everybody along the route, the business owners, look outside and see a sexy new streetcar and think, yay, things are picking up. We're becoming a real city. It doesn't exist. It is a mirage. Price chopper. I'm going to talk about opportunity cost. And this is something that, again, happens all the time in Kansas City. If I build a grocery store across the street from your house, a brand new grocery store, you may go to the new grocery store. You will not also continue going to your old grocery store. And that is common sense, but not if you deal in economic development statistics, because they only count the new spending at the new location. They do not subtract from that the loss of business and jobs and maybe rents at the old location. It took me years to wrap my head around this, because when people explained it to me, I said, that can't be true. And it is exactly true. In the Hickman Mills area, right where Cerner or Oracle is. They've got that brand new price chopper, and it got a write-up, and it got an incentive. It closed a previous price chopper a mile away. We didn't create anything new, but the new price chopper gets the Chamber of Commerce excited, gets City Hall excited. The mayor, I'm sure, went to a ribbon cutting. And it is a way that if you're not paying attention, you think that things are growing when nothing is actually happening. So again, like I said, the economic development studies that the city tells you about, the developer tells you about, don't talk about net change. It just talks about the gross. Here's what we gained here. They count new spending, but don't subtract the loss of spending elsewhere, and they often don't even take into account the proper baseline. Okay, so we're going to host all sorts of this. The soccer stuff is coming, and you're going to hear about billions of dollars of new spending. Here's how they do this. They say, we've got a convention downtown, Republican convention, NFL draft, whatever. And they say, our hotel occupancy rate is at 100%. And we surveyed all these people, and we asked them, how much money are you going to spend a day? And they tell us, and we add that all up, and we say, look, we're making billions of dollars. But on a weekend in Kansas City, where there isn't anything going on, our hotel occupancy rate's around 70%. And people are still in here spending money. Do the economic development experts just count that 30% difference? No. They count all 100%, as if their event wasn't here, it would just be tumbleweeds and nobody downtown. And you laugh, but it's so frustrating. And it's gotten to the point in some of these reports, I always know it's Appendix D. Appendix D is where they put all the lies. Okay, downtown baseball.
Oh my gosh.
So it's the exact same thing. They tell you, we're going to create all this new wealth. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. We're going to create all this new wealth. But what happens right now is that people drive to the ballpark, they stop at Target or a liquor store or a grocery store, and they buy booze and everything, and then they sit in the parking lot, and they tailgate, and then they go to the game. If you pick up the park and drop it downtown, people will change their behavior, but they won't spend any more money. I actually had a conversation with, I don't want to say who, but it was someone who should know better. And I had to explain to him, just because you move the park doesn't mean I have twice as much entertainment dollars to spend. I just spend them differently. There is no economic impact to downtown baseball. And there are economists around the country who pull their hair out because local news can't seem to understand that. Or there are too many people who produce independent reports that say that there's an economic benefit. Now, there is an economic benefit to the restaurants right there around the park. And there's an economic loss to the Target and the grocery store and the liquor store that people went to before. But as a city, we don't see any change. And if you're a ballpark owner, you pocket every one of those dollars because you not only own that park, and by the way, nobody owns a baseball team because they like baseball teams. They own a baseball team because they want to build a shopping mall around it, and that's where they make all their money. So the St. Louis Federal Reserve said that these reports often stress that estimates about the economic impact of sports stadiums are exaggerated because they fail to recognize, again, the opportunity cost that we talked about. And Berkeley Economic Review, not conservative, said the exact same thing. The inescapable truth is that the economic impact of these projects on the communities is minimal, and in fact, to the degree that they hoover up property, sales, and income tax, they actually hurt communities because there's less money to pay for police. I have heard that the #1 source of calls to the Raytown Police Department is, any guess? Walmart. And how much money does Walmart pay in property taxes to support the Raytown Police Department? Zero. Okay, and then you guys know this, but when I go around the country, I tell people, if you think that there is, if you think that there is an economic impact as a result of baseball, go to Google Maps and look at the Truman Sports Complex, because since I moved here, not only is there no economic development around it, I think there may be one less hotel than when I got here 20 years ago. It doesn't do anything. It will make John Sherman and Clark Hunt a lot of money, but it won't help us. I think these incentives it's a great timing. I think of these incentives as a Valentine's Day card from your mother. You get it in the mail, you're really excited, and then you open it and realize it doesn't count. she has to love you. It's like getting no part of that.
That's funny.
But when we see that H&R Block building, when we see that streetcar, we get excited. Wow, our city's really taking off. When we open it up and realize it's just for Mom. Okay, so the effects of all this stuff. The money spent on diverted by incentives could go to other things that are more likely to increase productivity and promote economic growth. And part of the problem is we protect these developers from their own bad ideas. Okay, so every time a developer comes to you and says, hey, I've got a great idea for a project, and I need taxpayers to chip in X, Y, Z. What they're really saying is, I've got a really bad idea, and I can't raise enough money from private investors with their own money. So I'm going to come to you, suckers, and you give me a bunch of money. It will make the deal attractive for all my other investors. Because nobody loves investing in something more than if some city has its tax rate on the line, right? You've got an investor there that is going to backfill and you're going to make money. And so every investor wants taxpayers on the hook. This is an incredible letter. Drury Hotel wanted to build a hotel years ago downtown, and they wanted subsidies. And so they put together their ask to the Economic Development Corporation. And the Economic Development Corporation said, yes, we'll give you some subsidies, but not as many as you want. And so they wrote back in a huff and said, Drury believes that this project is financially risky because of the projected doubling of downtown hotels over the next 24 months. In other words, they're saying there are so many hotels downtown that we can't make money if we build another one, so we want taxpayers to subsidize it. We are literally distorting the market. We are telling people to build where the free market would otherwise tell them to stay away. It is crazy. And then, of course, we need conventions to fill all those hotel rooms that we shouldn't have built in the first place. And then, I think this is my last point. My frustration with economic development subsidies are legion. But here's what makes me crazy in St. Louis or Kansas City. The conceit, the basic conceit of economic development subsidies is that taxes are too high. And if we lower taxes, we will get more development. But if you put that to the liberals that run these cities, they would never agree with that. But that is exactly how these subsidies work. But they don't want to lower taxes for everyone and just see what happens. They want to tax everybody so that they can give a tax break to just one of you, because that allows them more control over the market than they would have otherwise. Economic development deals don't exist to create jobs. They exist to make voters believe that politicians are responsible for creating jobs. That's John Mosina from Detroit. He's a friend of mine, but that is just an incredible point. And it's exactly right. We all know that politicians don't create jobs. But subsidies like this allow them, on the left and right, Republicans and Democrats, to play like they are job creators. We talked about that. All right. Haywood Sanders is a professor from Texas. He came in to talk about the Convention Hotel, and he said, what Kansas City and so many other cities need to do is stop playing follow the leader. We are never going to be Chicago or Portland or Denver, and I argue we shouldn't try to be. Every city needs to figure out what their competitive advantage is and stick to it. But instead, we fall for these hucksters who come through our city with a song and a dance, and they sell us streetcars, convention hotels, baseball stadiums, all sorts of things. If you're younger, you get that reference. If you're older, you get that reference. It's the same show. And they always have a sweet song and dance. And so I end on this because what I want you to understand is that the people who work at City Hall mean well. They legitimately mean well. They want the city to be a better place to live. But they are so overworked, and the stuff that developers feed them is so spoon-fed and so convincing that it is frustrating for me when I talk to people who should know better, and they just don't get it. And it's because the business is happy to say, thank you, you've created jobs. City Hall is happy to say, we've created jobs. The Economic Development Corporation, the governor, the legislature, they're all happy to say, we create jobs. And you and I, if we don't pay attention, are happy to drive by and see new construction. And so everybody is on the same side of the table. And it's very, I love it, but it's very difficult to be the turd in the punch bowl that has to show up every time and say, none of this is true. So, if you've got your phone, there's some more papers there. Like I said, I've got this handout over there on the table. Thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to take questions, but I realize this is running long. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of info.
That's a lot of info, but, when I said fiscal awareness, that was definitely fiscal awareness, no doubt about that. Thank you very much for coming. I know that you all have a lot of subjects that you cover, and LaVon, is that her name?
Lavana, yes.
LaVon is going to keep up with me, and we'll talk about some more subjects also. In 2020, in about March or April, when Tom called me and said, "Hey, we need to start a group," I was already meeting with Ron Freeman and Tom and myself, and then my friend Doug Billings kind of showed up. Doug Billings I think he was a few years older than me in high school, weren't you, Doug? No, Doug went to Grandview also. He was about 6 years younger than me in Grandview. And it's kind of funny. In 2020, he helped me start We the People. He and Ron and Tom, there were several of us that got this thing going. But at that same time, Doug Billings says, because he's from he's a newscaster. He's got a lot of background in
Media.
Speaking in front of people and all this. He says, "I think I'm going to start a podcast." That was only 2020, wasn't it? 2020, and they're saying he's the new Rush Limbaugh now. They're saying that he's got the voice. And a lot of people are listening to him. And, he said, he goes to Mar-a-Lago quite often. He hasn't taken me yet. And I'm on it too, man. I text him about once a month and I said, "Hey, what's going on, Doug?" But we do have the opportunity for Doug to speak to us tonight. And we appreciate you being here, buddy. Come on up. Not pushing you on time at all.
4 hours, wow. Wow, hi everybody.
Hi.
Isn't the last 14 days, that's 2 weeks in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. The sun has been a lot brighter, hasn't it? Even on cloudy days, right? What a change, what a change. You want some hope and some so look around and see what you see. Doesn't it just feel better?
Yes.
It feels better, doesn't it? That feeling that you feel, I would say to you, is the divine providence of God. It is what he intended this republic to feel like. And President Trump is restoring that. And I want to take inventory as we enjoy these last 14 days and we look forward to the next 4 years. In 2020, as Chuck was saying, when I started my show in January, so this month February marks the beginning of my 5th year doing this crazy thing. And, you look back, it was because of the reason I left corporate America was because of the COVID nonsense and all of that. And I've shared my story about that here before. I won't bore you with it. But because of that, as an HR VP, when you're struck with the COVID nonsense and you don't believe in it and they want you to write policies that will sequester people away, I said, no thanks. Started my show. And I'll be darned if 3 million people a month don't turn into that darn thing. And it's just surreal in so many ways. And people have noticed it. And I want you to take inventory with me. 2020, we witnessed the theft of an American presidential election, remember?
Yeah.
Administrator Biden comes in. I never called the guy president.
I mean, I just can't do it. Administrator Biden is shuffled in. The liberal hierarchy is running the show. Barack Obama, Susan Rice, specifically, they were. If you didn't know that, they were the ones running the show. And we were all kind of, oh no, what are we going to do? We saw this stuff, and we were absolutely depressed as too nice of a word. We were devastated, weren't we? But you know what? The divine providence of God is an interesting thing. President Trump had to be put on the sidelines in 2020. He had to. And God saw to it that he was. Go with me on this, okay? If he did win. I was going to say if he won. He did win. But if he would have ascended into the presidency in 2020, you know what would have happened, right? He would have been impeached again for a third time. We didn't have the House and the Senate. And if that would have happened, he couldn't have run to be dog catcher, my friends. So isn't the divine providence of God interesting? Mr. President, I'm going to take you out for a minute and put you over here on the sideline.
Yep.
Warm up and stay warm, because I'm going to put you back in the game in 4 years. And in the meantime, I'm going to help people like me and Chuck and you, grassroots people, wake other people up.
Yes.
That's what happened. We experienced a great reawakening over these last 4 years. And it's the divine providence of God moving amongst people like you who are key in this whole thing. It's people like you that Trump is back in the White House. I want you to know that. And he knows that. He does know it. The divine providence of God was the reason the inauguration was moved from outside to inside to protect him from a shooter. They might say, well, it was the weather and this and that. Believe me, there were active threats on his life. And they moved it inside. I was there. And you know what? I like getting there. It's like the womb of our republic. And it all happened right there where it should have happened. I loved it. It was incredible. Goosebumps all throughout the ceremony. I say these things because I want you to continue to have hope. Enjoy what's going on. We have a lot of work to do. And we have a lot of work to do before the midterms. So we have 2 years to really make hay here and get things done. You're going to see, you've already heard him say, the Department of Education is going away, and the powers that reside within it are coming back to Missouri and back to each individual state. You're going to see the IRS be eliminated. Just watch. Just watch. He's going to withdraw the United States from the United Nations before the end of this presidency. Just watch. Just watch. He's already withdrawn the United States from the United Nations Subcommittee on Human Rights. He did that just yesterday. And all of these executive orders, did you watch on TV when he's being handed the executive orders and signing? You know the man handing him the executive orders was Missouri's own Will Scharf. That round of applause for Will. He's in the inner circle. That's amazing. And I'm so proud of Will and what he's done. And it's a very exciting time for him. That's a big deal. Now, the executive orders are great, but they're not they're not our end game, because they can be undone by someone else, right? So legislation is where we need to focus, and that's why this group is so important. We need to legislate. And for an example on this, Trump puts forth, it's not just, a whim that he puts out executive orders. Well, I think today I'm going to talk about birthright citizenship. And I'm going to just make an executive order that gets rid of that and just see what happens. It's not that. He did it on purpose because what he wanted to happen is exactly what did happen. There's a challenge now in court, and it's going to end up in the Supreme Court. And I want you to go home either tonight or tomorrow, read the 14th Amendment. I did a show on this just the other day. Trump's going to win this thing. Birthright citizenship is going to be struck in this country. Just watch, and I'll tell you why. When you read the language of the 14th Amendment, there was a Supreme Court case on this in 1898. Wong King versus the United States. And the justices said, they looked at the words, under the jurisdiction thereof. Because that's the key word in the paragraph in the 14th Amendment when they're talking about birthright citizenship and who can be citizens. The only people that can be born citizens are to parents who are under the jurisdiction of the United States. And they're not talking about, speeding traffic jurisdictions. They're talking about citizenship jurisdictions. Illegal immigrants are under the jurisdiction of whatever country they're from. They're not under the jurisdiction of the United States. Now, that doesn't mean they just come in here and violate our laws. We can still arrest them if they violate our laws. That's not the kind of jurisdiction that I'm talking about. I'm talking about citizenship jurisdiction. Trump's going to win this thing. With this Supreme Court, I know you can never predict, and I probably shouldn't, but the language is on his side. Under the jurisdiction thereof. These illegals are not under our jurisdiction. Just one example. You're going to see, you're already seeing it, the end of DEI and all of this nonsense, the LGBTQ kook community, as I call them. All of these things falling by the wayside, the immorality of the radical left. And it became so bad, didn't it? John and Jane Doe on the streets of Independence, Missouri, who may have voted for Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris. They may have voted for him. But they, over the last 4 years, looked around the streets of Independence, the state of Missouri, and the state of this country, and said, this is not what I signed up for. It became so bad, and the paradox is, as it turns out, liberalism was the reason liberalism died. And it was thorough. And we have a lot of work to do. You saw people who are very, very well known. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, all come over to our side. And every one of those people, when you look at them, those three, the big three, 20 million people followed them. And they came to our side and they voted. So we have a lot of work to do to keep those people with us. We're not going to surrender the core MAGA conservative principles that we love and we cherish. But we have got to be able to recognize what RFK Jr., Tulsi, and Elon have done. They've enabled us to be here. So we have to find common. There's, I saw the movie Reagan the other day. The new movie Reagan. A bit in that they did the thing with him and Tip O'Neill. I remember Tip O'Neill and I remember Ronald Reagan. Reagan was the first president that I voted for. And they disagreed with, societal and political issues. But by God, at the end of the day, they could go have a beer together. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to that. We don't surrender our principles. We stand on them, but we've got to become, again, neighbors. And let me tell you, the word neighbors. The radical left, it begs the question when you look at what happened over these last 4 years. The border is the most obvious example of this. The chaos that the border caused America. But it was because of a policy that was liberal. Every liberal policy put forth by these people causes chaos and crisis. Every single time. When Tim Walz was chosen as the vice president to that tackle, I was like, Tim Walz, I mean, thank God we're not hearing that anymore, right?
Yes.
I don't even want to try to do it.
Wow.
But I was going, no, wait a minute. Tim Walz, the most liberal, I knew exactly who he was the moment his name was, he's the guy that let Minneapolis burn during the Floyd riots and all that. Just let it burn. And his wife actually made a comment, I like the smell of burning rubber in the morning, meaning the car tires and so forth from the vandalism. And you think, really? Interesting. Why not Josh Shapiro? This is what went through my mind. Why not Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania? Young, articulate. Pennsilvania is a state that they needed. They didn't need Minnesota. No Republican, even Reagan. Since Reagan, nobody wins Minnesota if you're a Republican. Why would they choose Tim Walz? Because they needed the most radical liberal ticket they could get. Because the presidency wasn't their number one goal. The number one goal of the radical liberal movement in America was to move the needle further to the left. That's their goal. Look what we're talking about in the media. We're talking about things like gender misappropriation, which is a myth, by the way. From the dawn of recorded history up to 2020, there was 2 genders. From 2020 to 2024, there were 72. Now we're back to 2. I mean, it's crazy, but that's what they want. Gender misappropriation, and by the way, little Johnny and little Sarah, if you're unhappy because you think that you've been gender misappropriated, the way that you can become happy is that we mutilate your genitalia. That's what we're talking about in America. It's gruesome, it's barbaric, it's medieval. It's further to the left. That's what they want. Further transvestites in schools. I mean, the whole thing. We had Lee talking about pornography, and it's true in the schools. Yes, indeed. That's their goal. It was not the presidency. They would have taken it. Could they get it? Yes, of course they would have taken it. But that wasn't their number one goal. Always to move the needle to the left. As it turns out, thank God, most of Americans said, no more. Liberalism, we're done. We're done with you. And when you look at them today, none of them, I haven't seen one, really, and words are important. I haven't seen one liberal, whether it's a person on the legacy media, whether it's a podcaster who's liberal, whether it's a politician. I haven't seen one of them who appears to have done any credible self-reflection about why they lost. In fact, they're doubling down, in many cases, on their radical liberal agenda. Chaos and crisis, the storms, Helena, the hurricane, North Carolina, no response, FEMA, here's $750. I mean, that kind of thing. The government was slow to respond. Why is that? Why wasn't, because they don't want you to become neighborly with each other. They don't want you to depend on one another. They want to take everything that requires and strip it away. They want you to become dependent on big government. That's why they want chaos and crisis. They believe that if those events happen, you will be more inclined to depend on big government. Why the chaos? Why would they do it? Doug, you're telling me the border was on purpose? Of course it was on purpose. This is no accident that we've had 20 million people influx into this country. Why, Doug? Why? Because they want a new electoral base. They want these people to vote for them. Hey, Juan. Hey, Ahmed, come on over here. And by the way, take this box of ballots and give it to the guy in the white van over there. We'll give you free health care, free food, free clothing, free education. Just vote this way. They did it. They did it. Also, they want to dilute the American identity. Don't forget about that one. That's what's happening in England, Germany, Spain, and France at this very moment. They've got huge problems. The good news for all of us around the planet, conservatism is ascending all around the globe. People like you are rising up and saying, wait a minute. And Trump is the heartbeat of it. Our president is the heartbeat of the conservative movement around the world. You'll see, I think, Trump, well, I know that you're going to see him groom and prepare J.D. Vance for the next 12 years. So JD's only 40 years old, and 2028, 2032 we have to look forward to. He's the standard bearer. And he, again, if you have any doubts about him, please give yourself permission to cast those doubts aside. He's the guy. And I know there'll be a contest, there'll be a primary. We're not the Democrats, we're not going to just assign him the role, but we will have a primary. But he's the one. So my point in bringing that up is there's great news and great longevity here to set things up the right way. We will get legislation done. Again, the tariffs, how about those tariffs? Mexico bends the knee today. China is no longer in control of the Panama Canal. Marco Rubio goes down there, and 12 hours later, Panama cancels the deal they had with China.
Nice.
So, so much winning, right? So much winning. We're going to get sick of the winning. No, thank you. No, we're not. It's great to feel this. It's great to be part of it. It's great to see. I'm so proud of what Chuck has done. I'm so excited to see you people, because really, you are the reasons. This grassroots movement throughout America is the reason Trump is back in. People woke up. We didn't gather like this before 2020. And that's the problem. That's why it's our fault that 2020 happened, really, in a lot of ways. If we're honest with ourselves as conservatives, we've done a lot of great things, raised great families, went to wars and won them, etc., but we weren't involved. And we are now. And we're a mighty voice. And it's the voice of righteousness. It's the voice of the divine providence of God. It's the voice of the intent of the founding fathers. Can you imagine a liberal Democrat standing up and saying, well, yes, I support, now they'll get up and say it, but they're lying. I support the Founding Fathers and our Constitution. Really, then why are you trying to get rid of the Electoral College and expand the Supreme Court? Why do you, with these things that the Founding Fathers put forth, why are you trying to destroy and dismantle those? Think about it. The thing I'll leave you with is this. We have to hold, we have a rhino problem. I'm going to talk about that before I go. We have a rhino problem. You in Missouri and Jackson County, you need to vet your candidates. Please. Whoever, if they want, John Doe wants to run for office, or Jane Doe wants to run for office with an R after their name, for Republican, again, if you're from Raytown, thank you. I'm kidding, I went to Grandview, I had a little thing with Raytown, don't be offended, I say it on my show all the time. Little competition. I've got the microphone, Raytown, ha ha. So we have to vet them. We have to understand what they stand for and get them on the record so that we can begin to weed out the rhinos. Missouri is a hot mess in a lot of ways. You look good on paper, but holy moly, there's a rhino problem. And so stay steadfast and encourage your Republican committeemen and women and the people in your state to vet local candidates. Please, I beg you. It's so important. And I was at the inauguration, had a meeting with Trump and with Devin Nunes and with Kash Patel, with Tulsi and with I'm forgetting someone there. Elon. I did not get to meet Elon. He was at his own little gala thing or other, but I didn't get to see him.
Robert Kennedy?
No. I mean, it's a big name. I just drew a complete.
Biondi?
Vivek, yes. Yeah, Vivek, yeah. How could I forget Vivek? Dodge, how about Dodge? Dodge. It's all great. And we will stay united, I hope. You will see many, many great things. Do any of you have any questions? I really just wanted to inject some hope and let you know these 14 days have been incredible. Executive orders are a lot of fun to watch, and it's fun to watch liberal heads explode. I love that as much as the next guy. I love the meltdowns. I love it. I can get on Netflix or YouTube and go, God, I gotta watch that again. And it's hysterical. It's kind of like after the Chiefs win. You know what I do? I go to the Buffalo news stations and I go, look how they're reacting. Oh my God, we got them again. So, I mean, that's probably not very nice, but that's what I do. I do the same thing with liberals. So, if you have any questions, I'm happy to field whatever I can answer. We are in for a great ride, and I just tip my hat to every one of you because I mean it. This is a party of life. This is a party of the Founding Fathers. It's the party of God. It's the MAGA movement. It's forever changed. I don't even call myself a Republican anymore. There's a difference. And we have to realize we're the party of life. You know, the radical liberals would not, and I've got my son Michael in the back. Michael, you can come on up, my son. Michael is my example of the party of life because they would try to say that Michael's an inconvenience. Michael has Down syndrome. He's got his Trump Mar-a-Lago shirt on. Look at that.
Oh, nice.
I've done a good job.
Yes. Aww.
But Michael is amazing. The Down syndrome, the extra 21st chromosome. I call it the divine chromosome. It's as if God reached down and said, poof, you're incredible. No venom, no prejudices. They're almost always happy. But the radical left will say it's an inconvenience. You should just be able to abort that child and get rid of it. That's not us, and it never will be.
No.
Questions? Yes, sir.
What do you think of our alternatives in Canada against Trudeau and Mexico? The Jewish woman in charge of Mexico.
Right. Yes. What's Justin Trudeau? You know, he and Tim Walz are the poster men for the wussification of men around the world. I used to say Tim Walz, the wussified American male, the role model. I love it. I love watching Justin Trudeau melt down.
Yeah.
And the fact, you know, Trump jokes about it becoming the 51st state in liberals. What are you talking about? You're going to march in and take Greenland? What are you talking about? Oh my God. And they just don't get it. They just don't get it. Now, Greenland, the president over there, you didn't ask the question, but the president of Greenland wants to be part of the United States. I don't know if you all heard that or not. He wants to leave Denmark and be a territory of the United. I think that would be outstanding, only for the comic value of watching more liberal heads explode. Talk about YouTube. Wow, I'd have a whole week of things to catch up and watch. It's incredible. It's great. So in Mexico, they gave us 10,000 troops yesterday. And have you seen the video clip? I forget who, Charlie Kirk put it on his page, but it's an entire line of soldiers, military vehicles along the border now. I mean,
that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's common sense.
Yes.
And it's just, and the thing is, as it turns out, it was so bad under Biden.
Oh,
so bad that multiple millions and millions of people are waking up to the beauty of the MAGA movement. And it's okay. America is an exceptional place. It's not an ego statement. It's just a matter of fact. I mean, in their own way, Germans will think Germany's it, or England, or Ireland, or wherever you're from. That's okay. But we're America, and we're not going to let it become the land of the deluded, right?
Yeah.
So there you are. Yeah. Anything else? Going up? Yes.
What about Netanyahu coming tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be a big day.
What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I think they're going to solidify their. Netanyahu and Trump are great friends. I mean, they're real tight personally. I like Netanyahu myself personally, and I respect other people's opinions on that. And it ultimately, that's not a hill I'm going to die on. But I'm a supporter of Israel. I'm a supporter of Netanyahu. I think they're going to talk about the Iron Dome in the United States and in the Iron Dome. I mean, that's a technical defense piece of the conversation they're going to have. Are you trying to get to another point about that?
No, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Because
Speak freely.
he wanted to come to the inauguration. They wouldn't allow him to come to the inauguration, and I'm pretty sure it's because of security.
Well, there were threats. Yeah, so the reason it was moved to the Capitol was because there were serious.
Yeah.
So there are people in the United States that have shoulder-to-air missiles. I mean, this is true stuff. And if you've watched or listened to me, since 2020, I've been telling people there are people in this country that want to do incredible, horrible things. And I've been in meetings with General Flynn and Trump and others about originally there was a time a few years ago where they thought that middle schools and grade schools were going to be targeted, much like what they did in Israel, flying in with parachutes and this and that. And it's like the movie Red Dawn, right? I mean, they really thought something like that was going to happen, where they would take children hostage. And there are people, I used to worry about him flying on his own Trump airplane. I mean, good God. It doesn't have the countermeasures that Air Force One does to get rid of the missiles and stuff that may be fired. I mean, it was a real credible threat. So they moved that thing inside, and that's the reason. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any comments on the drones?
Yeah, the drones. So one of the things that Trump has asked me to do is be part of his communications team. And be part of I'm the guy that he wants to know who's the kook. Who are the kooks and who are the guys that are legitimate in the podcast world. So I'm having a blast with this.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, my goodness. And I'll talk about anybody you want to know about, and I'll tell you if they're a kook or not. Anybody who claimed that Trump was still president and the military was running the country is a kook. A kook. But the drones, it's a mix. There were some government drones in that mix, but there was also J. Bob and Billy Bob, who had a lot of money and could afford big drones that were up there trying to cause issues and problems. Mm-hmm. And they got arrested.
Oh, good.
So they're in the clink. So it wasn't a nefarious. These airline accidents. It's not planned. It's not a planned thing. They're horrible tragedies. We'll see the reports come out. But podcasters are out there for clickbait and making money, and it's not responsible. So
okay.
What else? We got to go. Chuck is giving me the
latest executive order to remove the U.S. is DAI, AID,
International aid.
Yeah, international.
Oh
aid.
yeah. The funding for all of that.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was started as an executive order.
Yes. What Trump wants to do.
Yes.
He's yanking all the money that went to these international aid and so
So-called
forth.
charities,
It's
yeah.
part of what, what's her name, the press secretary was talking about, where there was a $20 million check sent to Gaza.
Oh, Gaza for condoms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's putting the kibosh on that. And
Good.
liberal, the liberal side, they're all the usual players. They're all going gaga over them. Their minds are exploding. Yeah.
Good.
The UNEI, I'm going to forget the acronym. Get with me afterwards and we can look it up and I'll tell you. It's great. Good stuff. Yeah. Anybody who wants to know who the Kooks and Podcast are, I'll tell you. Lee, we love you back, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck.
You know, it's a pleasure to have Doug come every now and then and update us on what's going on in the real world.
Rejuvenate us.
A lot of
Yeah.
times, it's the world that we don't see,
Yeah.
but he's there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's with these people all the time. He hears it, you know, firsthand. So it was a wonderful night. It was a beautiful 2 hours that we spent together. Appreciate each and every one of you being here, and we'll see you next month.